Hello guys and welcome to a very special video. Now this video is the Sergeant Sawyer Charity model tutorial. This model was created for Paul Sawyer, who's going through some pretty tough times at the moment, and this was created to help fund a charity that's close to his heart, which we will talk about at the end of the video. Now this is very special to me because Paul gave the channel a helping hand when it came to getting some of Warlord's attention and really promoting their stuff on the channel. So a huge thank you goes out to Paul, and if it wasn't for him, this sort of video wouldn't be possible. So to paint this charity figure out, I'm going with a British Airborne look to it, which is obviously what it's designed for, and I'm using middle stone for the Denison smock. I'm going with the Mark 1 variant. Now I will explain that in a little bit more detail because there isn't a huge difference between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, but for now we'll just get the base colours on. So with that base colour of the smock, I'm then going on with the brown, and I'm using burnt umber. The Mark 1 had slightly darker brown for what I've seen in pictures and reference material, so I'm using burnt umber. My final results showed it to be probably a little bit too dark, so you might want to go with a lighter brown, but I think it's a nice change. It's good to mix up different colours because obviously different smocks and that throughout different airborne periods in the Second World War for the British Airborne would have faded, and some veterans would have kept theirs, you know, for years. So yeah, the browns and greens would have faded for sure. And then I use refractive green for those green marks on the smock. Now when you're brushing these on, just use your paintbrush to do the trick. You want to leave those paintbrush lines, on the model. I believe the Mark 1 was literally painted on with just like a thick paintbrush, so you want to try and replicate that with your brush ends, and it makes it look really nice actually when you do that. And once you've got that smock looking pretty decent, you can then go ahead and hit the trousers with English uniform. And I also like to give his water bottle a go with English uniform too. But for now, I'm just painting the trousers, and you can see that I'm taking my time here. It's a lovely figure. The person that sculpted this has done a fantastic job. It really does look so great. And then with that done, I'm going to go ahead and go with US Olive Drab for his webbing. So you can see that he's got like a map case here. He's got the Sten pouches over his chest, his pistol holster, and the other stuff like that. There's lots of webbing here that you need to paint. Obviously, being an airborne figure, you're gonna see that. I've sped it right up to try not to bore you guys to tears. And then for the shoes, we go ahead and give that a go of black. Very dark, obviously, but that's okay. I weather the shoes pretty heavily when I'm putting the basing material on with my dry brushing and stuff, so that makes all the detail on the boots pop, which they have plenty of detail. So yeah, you want to try and capture those if you can, don't just leave them pure black. Then for the airborne beret, that maroon colour is really hard to get right. So I use wine red to get this looking relatively close to that maroon colour. It might still be a little bit too red. If you've got an alternative colour, I'd love to hear it in the comments section. So please do drop me a line and tell me what you use for your British Airborne figures if you've painted some. Then for the Sten gun, the strap on the Sten gun, I'm using khaki. You might opt to just use that US Olive Drab that we used for the webbing. That's absolutely fine. But I thought just to break up the colour so it doesn't all look exactly the same, I'm going to go with khaki. Then for any metallic objects, obviously the Sten gun being all metal, I use black grey. And actually I have fired a Sten gun in real life. It was a very awesome gun to shoot. Such an iconic SMG. I wish in Australia we could have access to shooting some more of these. I'd love to shoot the Sten gun. It's very cool. And then he's holding what appears to be a bit of paper, but I'm going to paint it like a book. So I'm using German camo medium brown. Now this book could be anything. It could be a Bible, could be like just a intelligence book, I don't know, but I'm painting the back of it in that camo brown, and then I'm painting the actual part of the wrist straps of the smock in that US dark green. And then I'm painting the emblem, the Pegasus emblem, or the British Airborne emblem on that beret in base lead Belcher. Don't fall for the gold trick. They weren't gold, they were silver. So yeah, just go with that. Oh, they were silver in colour. And then for that page, I use deck tan on that book that I've put there. Okay, so now I want to grab my trusty Battlefield Accessories paint holder, paint pot holder for the Warhammer paint range. You can access one of those for free if you purchase them from their tabletop ready range. All of that information will be in the video description. Then I use null oil and technical medium at a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's just the Warhammer, the null oil Warhammer thinners, so the thinners that you would use for this wash, mixed together. So I grab half out of this pot, put it into another one, put half of the thinners in one, half of the thinners in others, and you've got 2 pots of this mixture that you've created, and it's a really, really nice wash. It's not too heavy on the black either, and it is a black wash. So then I use the same base colour. So this process is exactly the same throughout the whole of what we've just painted, but I'm using Middlestone again, and this is where I'm really trying to bring that Mark 1 Denison smock into the frame. Now this figure has lots of creases and a little flat areas that we need to repaint in that Middlestone that hasn't been hit with those greens and browns. So you can see by just reapplying that base colour, it's starting to make it pop, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not applying anything else to that base colour. Now I'm using the burnt umber again and going over it and just tidying up little areas that want adding maybe a few more paint streaks, and just going over those blotches that are on there as well, just to make them stand out a little bit more, especially if that null oil and technical medium at a 1-to-1 ratio sort of pulled on a flat surface. Then you can just reapply that colour and get rid of that really dark spot. And then that refractive green is exactly the same principle, guys, just making it just a little bit brighter, making it stand out. Obviously not painting the very outer edges of those camo bits, but leave them dark, just so it acts as a highlight in the middle. I call it like a panel highlight. So I'm just painting the middle of these blotches just to make them stand out a little bit more, and they don't all just fade in, which obviously they would be doing in real life, but for a miniature at this scale, you want them to stand out so you can see, oh, that's a Denison smock, that. And then for those wrist straps on that actual smock, we use US dark green again. And there's lots of detail in there already. There's lots of like individual lines that you have to try and capture, so it's a pain in the ass thanks to that warlord. But yeah, all these little extra details really do go such a long way. So just make sure you're capturing those. And then to highlight those, I use US dark green and German camo beige at a 2-to-1 ratio. The reason I go 2-to-1 is because if you just go 1-to-1 ratio, it will be too light and it will look too unrealistic and yeah, just not right. So now we have to go back over the webbing now. And this is where it all starts to come together. You've done the smock, now you're starting to add the webbing. You start looking and going, okay, the finishing line is coming up, and the figure's really starting to come into its own now, and it's going to look really, really cool. And you can see that I'm painting in very small little parts with a very fine tip, just to work it in, just so I'm not making too many of those mistakes that we have to clean up. Then I use US olive drab and German camo beige at a 1-to-1 ratio. It's very, very bright. You could probably go 2 parts of the US olive drab to 1 part beige and then 1-to-1. But I thought I'd go with 1-to-1 just to speed up the process just a touch. And you can see that I'm just painting the very outer edge of each strap and leaving that dark bit in the middle of the strap, or that darker base colour or layer colour that we just put down. And I'm just slowly starting to build up those highlights. You can see there that the webbing's now looking very nice indeed. So we move on to the trousers now. Now this is the easy bit. The trousers are easy. English uniform. There's so many little raised edges that you can capture with this, and you can leave that original washed base colour in the recesses, so in all of those creases. You can see there's lots of little creases on that knee fold there and on the trouser bit that I'm painting. So yeah, you can see exactly, this is a perfect example of what I'm trying to do. And then to highlight that, I use English uniform and khaki grey at a 1:1 ratio. You could just skip this part and just go to khaki grey. There isn't a huge difference. It is quite a subtle colour, khaki grey and English uniform. So the mixing might be overkill, but I like really subtle highlights. And you can see that I'm just capturing those raised edges now. And it's just starting to all starting to come together. And I'd obviously do the same on that water bottle as well. Now for the Sten gun, I'm going over that with that black grey. Lots of detail on this Sten gun as well, guys. Like the safety switch, the trigger, all the little nooks and crannies that are on there, the stock and the magazine and stuff. So try and capture most of that detail if you can. Don't have to worry if you're not as tidy on this step, because this next step now is going to help us make it pop a little bit more and make those details stand out. And that's when we use the black grey and the basalt grey at a 1:1 ratio. So it's a dark or darkish grey mixed with a medium grey. So it's giving us a nice subtle layer going over some of those raised areas and those details like the trigger and the safety mechanism, as well as the outer edge of the magazine and little parts like that. You can take it one step further and you can go basalt grey and London grey at a 1:1 ratio. This is a very light highlight, so don't apply too much of this on. You could just go basalt grey too, but I thought I'd mix in a bit of that London grey just to see how it looks. And you can see that really helps with making those real small details pop on the Sten gun, and it's starting to really come into its own now. And this figure is just starting to look absolutely beautiful. I'm really liking the way this figure is coming out. Now we use khaki for the strap, and you can see that I'm literally painting a line on each side of that strap now for the sling, I should say. And then doing that again, the exact same process, except with khaki and stone grey at a 2:1 ratio. It's just a very light colour, and you can see how light that is in this shot now. It's really just coming into its own. I keep saying that and I'm like a bloody broken record, but it looks lovely. It really does look nice. I'm proud of this one. You can add a little bit of that black grey on the shoes as well, if you want to just make them stand out a little bit more. If you go a bit crazy and it doesn't look right, or you've highlighted something that you think shouldn't be highlighted, that's absolutely fine. You're going to be basing this, you're going to be dry brushing them anyway, so it's not a big deal. Then for that book, or the back of the book, I'm using that German camo medium brown again. You can see there is a spine on there, so I'm going to capture the spine of the book and then the pages and leave that dark base colour between the spine. Then I'm adding a little bit of orange brown into that mixture, so we go at a 1:1 ratio now, so German camo medium brown and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio, and I'm just adding in some little streaks in that on the book just to give it a little bit of a highlight, make it stand out just that little bit more. Then I go over the pages in the book with white grey, and then to add some little writing on there, I literally get the Nor oil, so the really thin down black wash, and just scribble on a few little squiggly lines. It's better than just putting on a black paint. It looks a little bit more realistic in my opinion. Now we're going over that beret in that wine red that I spoke about with that original base colour. I don't highlight it. I think that this just does it in itself. So this is a highlight, but I'm pretty generous with it, as you can tell. I'm painting the bulk of it back up and just leaving a few little indents where the head would be. And then finally, I'm just giving it the little Airborne symbol on his beret, a bit of the base lead belt chart, and you can even go a lighter silver if you wanted to. Now, the charity figure in question, when you purchased it, the funds went to the Brain Tumor Charity. It's a charity in the UK, and it was one selected by Paul. So you might have missed out on the charity figure, but you might feel obliged to put in a donation, and if you do so, then you can do it through this charity, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. So yeah, what a fantastic tribute by the team at Warlord Games to Paul. Now, Paul is going through a very tough time at the moment, but I'm sure all of these painted figures of himself saluting is going to give him a lot of joy indeed. So if you've got your figure, don't hesitate in getting it painted. Put it to the front of the queue and let's all put them together and give Warlord Games plenty of photos for Paul to enjoy. It was a lovely tribute that Warlord have put on, and I just love the fact that the community have been able to pay their respect to such a great man, and I really do hope that he's enjoying every possible minute with his family through this really difficult time. And just on a personal note, I just wanted to thank Paul again. So if you're watching this, Paul, thank you so much for everything you've done for my channel. I really do hope that you're enjoying your time with your family, as I've already mentioned, and my thoughts from myself and my family are coming your way. I'm sending you as much positivity as I possibly can to try and help you through this really tough time. I'm going to conclude the video here, guys. As I said, if you've got that charity figure on your pile of shame ready to be painted, don't hesitate in getting it painted up. Let's paint all of our figures and send our pictures off to Warlord Games. I'm sure Paul would love to see them all painted. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it here and I will catch you at the next one.